It is not only about function. Variables can be also local and global. So how we can handle this? Let me explain you with the help of example. Right. So text here, right? Local and global variable. Great. Now first let me create a simple function, right? Def a fixed function name is sample, right? Now there is one variable which is a global variable 10, right? Now I will print this x. Okay, I will try to access this and I will try to print this x. Sorry, I need to call sample 10. You can see you are able to access this, but this variable is a global variable because this is why this is global variable, because this is outside of this function. So global variable is accessible in entire script. Local variable which will defined here, for example, the local variable is y is equals to 15, right? X comma y 10 comma 15. Okay, but after this sample, if I try to print y, I will get the error. Y is not defined because this y has scope inside this function. So this is a local variable. Local variable inside. This is generally inside the function. Local variable is inside the function, right? In general, it is outside function. Outside function, right? So this is a local variable. This is not accessible. This is the one scenario you need to understand. Local variable are accessible inside the function, and global variable accessible into entire script. Right? Let me show you first the definition, and then we will do some experiment into this, right? So Python variables have scope. This is called scope. If you have done C++, Java, then you easily understand what is the meaning of scope. Scope means every entity, every variable has a scope where it will be accessible within the function, outside the function, or into entire module, into different modules. So this is the scope which determines where they can be accessed, right? Global variable, if you categorize them, there can be two types of variable, local and global, in terms of scope. Yeah, they can be accessible. That we will see when we will go for oops. But yeah, if they can, we can also define them outside the class. Okay, yeah, and in detail we will see when we will go oops. Right now we are seeing it from the function perspective because we are studying the functions. Okay, so this means that local variable can, yeah, yeah, I will explain. Don't worry. I have all those scenarios. Okay, just be there. Okay, so this means that local variable can be accessed only inside the function in which they are declared. Only inside the function, as I showed you into recent code, right? This is only accessible inside this, not outside, right? Okay, global variable can be accessed throughout the program, right? Now the question he is asking, what he is saying, suppose x is equals to 10 here and I am doing x is equals to 15 here. Now what will happen? Okay, now I am removing this. Sorry, let me do Control C, and I will keep this so that it will help you at your home when you do practice. Okay, and I'm keeping this here, and instead of this I'm doing x here, I'm removing y, right? Okay, x is 15. Now this x is local and this x is global. Now here this is again local. Now if you want to update this x, like x plus 5, right? You can't. Now you can see the error. Cannot access local variable x where it is not associated with a value. It means you are using this x without defining it. You are using this x without defining this. In that case, you need to use a keyword called global x. Now it will work. Sometimes, right, this is the way to use this in case of if you directly try to change this. In that case, it won't be a local variable. In that case, it won't be a local variable. Alright, so let me do Control C once, and okay, and let me copy this because I want to keep all the scenario alive, right? So that you can practice at home. So what I was doing is, instead of trying to do this, I was trying to update this. If I will try to update this, it will give me a cannot access local variable x where it is not associated with a value. It means x is not defined here, and you are updating it. How can you update a variable which is not defined inside? So for this, you need to use the global keyword x. You will say x is a global variable, and in this whole inside script, I will use x as a global variable. Okay, this is your. Now if you try to do this operation, you can see here 15, and I will use x. Now x is also 15 because x is updated inside this function. Okay, so please make sure if you are doing such operation, you will use global keyword, right? Let me explain you what it is. Python has two keywords. One is global, second is non-local keyword. First, understand global. Global modifies a global variable from inside a function. Right now we have seen we are trying to modify a variable inside the function. Then we will use a global. But sometimes we try to do this into an inner function, right? When change a global variable inside a function, right? And you have nested function situation. Let me show you this example also, right? So suppose you have situation where you have outer function, right? Okay, and here you have defined your x equals to 10. Now you are defining def inner function, right? Here you are trying to use the x, right? Here you are trying to use the x plus equals to, here you are trying to update it, right? Plus equals to 5, and you are printing your value of x, right? Now here outside you are also printing value of x, which is outside, right? So you can add here content outer, right? Here I am using inner function, right? Inner function. Okay, let me put here and also add here comma, right? So you can see it worked. Okay, it worked means it is not giving error. I need to run this first, right? Outer function. Outer is 10. Outer is 10, right? Okay, one more thing, I have not called the inner function. To call the inner function. Now let's see. Now it is giving error. You can't update this. So in that case, you need to write here non-local. X is not a local. X is not a local. X is coming from the upper scope. So this function has its scope. This function also has its scope. Both have different scope. So it is coming from different scope. It is not global. X is not global here. X is coming from a different scope. Otherwise, you will use a global keyword if it is a global one. It is coming from a different scope, right? Now it won't give you the error. It is updated from 10 to 50 in both the cases. So When your variable is global, you can use global keyword to make sure that the variable which you are updating which is global. And if you are using a variable which is inside a function, which is inside other function, or you can say inside your parent function, right, or above function or outer function, in that particular case you can use non-local. You are saying it is not local, it is coming from different scope. So that is why we have two keywords. So if you read here, when modifying an outer functions variable inside a nested function, at that time you should use this non-local, right? So modifies a variable from an enclosing or non-global function. This function is your non-global, right? So that is why we have two keywords. Initially we have only global keyword, after that Python also added this non-local keyword, right? So these two keywords coming here. Okay, so a simple thing is, whenever you are using any global variable inside a function, try to use global keyword. It won't give conflict. That's a good practice. And this case is rare. Non-local case is very rare. This practice, people generally don't do this practice until or unless there is we are trying to develop any core algorithm or something, then we will use this. Otherwise people try to avoid this situation.